Ladies and gentlemen, SideStrafe back with Star Wars Battlefront, and today I've got some post-commentary coverage for you featuring a designated Marksman build of sorts. We've got the T-21B for our main weapon, and then the Pulse Cannon Star Card for some extra long distance sniping. Now, normally, I'm not great at single-shot sniper rifles in any video game, especially ones that you have to charge up for maximum damage because you're dealing with, moving targets. But in this matchup, I actually did okay with the combination of the T-21B and the Pulse Cannon. Now, the other star cards I have Personal Shield, Impact Grenade, and even my trait, which I believe at the time was Bodyguard. I think you could swap those out. Maybe even go with Explosive Shot to give the T-21 some more damage, or potentially a few other things just to make you more useful to the team. I think it was just one of those things where I made this build on the fly when I was playing with some friends, and I didn't even think about the other star cards. I didn't actually go into this intending to snipe. It just kind of happened. But anyways, you might be thinking, why the T-21B, not the T-21? Well, the B has more range, a little less damage, but with how I believe most video games work, there's a damage fall-off point. And so if you have the B that can do greater range, but still a decent amount of damage, the fall-off is going to be less than if you were using the T-21. And so therefore, I choose this weapon for the range that I'm engaging targets at. On top of that, I believe the zoom is a bit more with this weapon. And you might be thinking, well, it's Star Wars Battlefront. Zooming doesn't increase accuracy, which is correct. But it does help you see targets. It helps you increase the size of the threat, and it allows you to engage more accurately at range. So when you're fighting close up, yeah, you don't want to be zoomed in too much. But when you're far away and you don't need to be moving around all the time, it's not bad to zoom in. It just helps you see that target. It, increases their size. But one thing to note when doing this is that you still want to pay attention to the objective. Obviously, if you're Rebel, you don't want to hang so far back that you're useless to your team. You need to be constantly engaging targets. You need to be watching the flanks. Obviously, you'll get clever Imperials or Rebels that will, they'll walk on the far edges of the map, and they'll hide behind the hills in different types of cover, and they'll try to, snipe your troops as they're making their way into the objectives. And so you want to be the guy that kind of keeps your eye out on those things. You want to eliminate those smart players before they can tackle your team. But notice how I'm constantly moving up with the team. If I see groups of our guys moving up, I'm moving with them, but I'm staying behind them to provide covering fire and maybe do some precision, sniping if I can. And again, I'm not amazing at this. I'm sure that somebody that's a lot more accurate than me and better with these types of weapons could really clean up. But I had some fairly consistent games with this combination of the T-21B and the pulse rifle, or cannon, I should say. It works, and in this map, I found that it works the best because it's a pretty simple map, right? It's kind of a straight line. The only thing is you've got lots of hill cover and debris in the way, so there's a lot of things to hide behind. But the downside of the T-21B, of course, is the fact that it overheats like crazy, and so you have to watch that. I'm not great at engaging with it in a close quarters situation. When you need to be really twitchy and on the move, it usually helps to have some sort of rate of fire, which is why I tend to prefer the E11 as a good all-rounder weapon, or maybe some sort of pistol when you're close quarters. If you're the guy or gal charging a point, rushing in, you probably want something else. But if you're providing this kind of support, designated marksman role, if you will, then, you know, doing what I'm doing here, kind of hanging out in the back, not too bad, not too shabby. I really liked it, and I found myself trying to employ these tactics on other maps as well. Walker Assault, Tatooine, Hoth, you know, the big maps, Supremacy modes. This build works as well, but especially in Turning Point, just because of the way that this is set up. And there's just so many targets to shoot at. But you always want to keep your eyes open. Don't stay zoomed in all the time, because you'll get tunnel vision and somebody will come around you, especially in this game because you've got jump packs. People just jump over you and you don't even realize it. Also, you'll most likely notice that every time you play, there's somebody on the other team doing the exact same thing as you are. The team's designated marksman or sniper, they're sitting in the back, they're skirting the edges, and they're sniping you out with the T-21B and then the pulse cannon. And more than likely, they're looking for you, as you should be looking for them, keeping an eye out for somebody that's kind of sitting still and maybe in a sniper position. And one way to tell is to just kind of look at the back line, and if you see a guy sitting still all the time and looking at something, and they've got like a long rifle, you know, if it's hard to tell from a distance, but if you can see a really long looking rifle and they're sitting still looking at things, or if they start to look directly at you and they're sitting still, more often than not, they're charging up that pulse cannon and you need to move fast. Duck, get out of there, because they're trying to pinpoint you with that rifle. Because, you know, they're doing what you're doing. And think about how you're playing it. Now, if you're good, you can kind of keep moving around and snipe at the same time, but, you know, for me, if moving around causes me to miss my target, I'm having to sit still sometimes. I'm always thinking about what's looking at me, not just what I'm looking at. But here you can see we're switching up our engagement. It's getting into some medium ranges. I'm still employing the pulse cannon. The T-21B, a little bit more difficult to use in this type of situation due to the fact that it overheats. And you can see that thing just cooks. But if you can control it and get the recharge, then you should be good to go. You just need to make sure that you have support, because when you get overwhelmed, if you're dealing with multiple threats coming at you, the weapon's not great, because it's too slow firing, and you would be better off with the regular T-21 or really any other weapon that just has rate of fire, something that can suppress. But again, if you can nail these shots consistently, you're dropping people in very few hits, and they don't expect it. And it's one thing I really like about this game, is that the time to kill, otherwise known as TTK, is really low. I feel that it's actually lower than that of Battlefield arcade mode, or I should say normal mode. Because obviously in Battlefield 3 and 4 you have hardcore mode and normal mode. And even in normal mode, I feel like it takes half of a magazine to drop somebody. And in this game, you can reliably take people out with very few hits, and that's concerning a variety of weapons. And I like that. It's just right for a game that's not realistic. There are some games that just have such high times to kill that I just don't enjoy them. Some people will disagree. Some people love high time to kill because they feel that it creates the need for more skill. Some people measure skill by how good you are at maintaining your accuracy on a target for an extended period of time. Sure, I do believe that that is a skill, but I disagree with that being any better than, you know, what we have here. It's just a different type of gameplay. I'm not saying that that's worse, but for me, I just don't like it. My personal preference is something along this if we're talking about you know, an unrealistic science fiction game. I mean, you can see how we can take these people out at great distances with this weapon. You know, other weapons, of course not. You know, you're not going to be able to deal damage with like an E11 too far out. So choose wisely when picking a weapon. It's always about the map. You know, if I switched over to blast mode, drop zone, droid hunt, something like that, then I'm going to be in smaller maps, and I'm probably going to want to have a weapon that's more reliable at close quarter engagements. E11 is usually my go-to. Sometimes if it's like super close quarter indoor, I might have a pistol of some sort. DL44, obviously, the godlike weapon in Battlefront currently. I don't know if that's going to stay the same. But yeah, I think the only things I would tweak with this build really is I probably wouldn't take in personal shield next time, and impact grenades I believe were nerfed with the last patch. They seem to not do as much damage as they did before. Probably necessary, but I almost think it would have been better to simply increase the cooldown timer on certain star cards. Impact, Thermal Det, Barrage, things that get spammed often, increase the cooldown timers. I don't know that nerfing the damage was really the way to go. Maybe just a touch, but not as much as it has been, because you also have to remember that most people are using the bodyguard trait, which reduces the effectiveness of those grenades. And so, as it is now, Impact and Barrage are not great choices. But I'm still kind of experimenting to really figure out whether they are absolutely terrible or if it's just my imagination. Beyond all of that, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to focus on the objectives. This is an inherently selfish loadout. It's really about getting kills at long distance, and sometimes you can get carried away with that and forget about the fact that there is something that you need to capture or defend. And so look around from time to time, zoom out, and think about the fact that you have friendlies running around you en masse trying to take something. Go with them. Throw your body at the objective. But I don't want to die a lot. Well, it doesn't matter. They're just numbers. Forget your kill to death ratio and win the match. We, I think, as a gamer society, become too obsessed with these statistics, and I don't mind having them. They're great so that you can kind of gauge your performance, but really, at the end of the day, I think the victory is what should matter most. Well, I suppose fun is what actually matters most, but winning is fun. Ladies and gentlemen, we are hammering this objective pretty hard here as the Rebel Alliance. Imps are holding out. I'm just trying to do what I can with this loadout. Preferably, you would want to go in with something that's a little bit better at close range. But since I haven't died yet, this is what I'm sticking with. But I think even when I do die, I still forget to change. I think it's just one of those heat of the moment things. You just got to spawn and get back in there. You forget to switch out. But I'm trying to focus on covering our assault group, our people that are mixing it up close quarters. I'm trying to take care of Imperial flankers, people that are trying to snipe us on the way in from our respawns. You can see that there's obviously a lot of cover out there with the hills and debris, and so they're trying to prevent us from getting to this point. So a lot of my time is spent getting rid of these guys out on the sides. You can see that they're trying to work their way towards maybe troops that we have out there. Perhaps, you know, it's a distraction for them as well. We've got guys on the turrets over there that this loadout is really good at removing from the game, unless you're in third person and for some reason your shot goes into a wall or something, which happens often. Don't know why. Ladies and gentlemen, victory for the Rebel Alliance, and a pretty decent personal score there. I recall some of my friends freaking out about what I was able to achieve there, but really I just told them it came down to positioning and landing shots. Pushing up on priority objectives with the rest of the team will provide you with plenty of targets to shoot at. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I really hope that you've enjoyed today's look at Star Wars Battlefront. Make sure to stay tuned for a whole lot more. I've got a link to my playlist in the description below. So with all of that said, thank you so much for joining me, and may the Force be with you.